This is Secret Squirrel Saturday on the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. If you are here, you are at the base level, $5 a month. We have had a lot of new folks show up in the last week. I would encourage everyone to go back through the channel and look through the training that we have done. Psychological states and techniques used for manipulating the mind are the focus of our training here. Today we are going to talk about two topics. One is called the availability heuristic, and the other one is called the endowment effect, and how they work together sometimes to completely control the opinions and beliefs of the masses. The endowment effect is this. There's been so many studies put out that it's surprising to me that more people don't know what it is. When you give somebody something, or somebody acquires something for themselves, they assign more of a value to it than they would assign that exact same thing in the possession of someone else, or what they would give up to purchase it. It is an insane thing to see. One of the examples that I've used with this, it's what I taught my daughters when they were in the age where they were starting to buy cars. You see a car for sale that's, say, $10,000, a used one. And you go to Kelley Blue Book and it's only listed for $8,000. Well, clearly what you're seeing there is somebody is attempting to jack up the price to have some room to negotiate. Well, that's one aspect. Given that the people probably want $8,000 for it, you have to think of this idea. They would rather have $8,000 than the car. Meaning what they're telling you basically is $8,000 is worth more than the car, even though they're asking $10,000. So just by negotiating them down to $8,000 doesn't mean that you've overcome their endowment effect. So you always have to take that into consideration when you're making offers on vehicles and in other places in your life. Now, this applies to belief systems as well, not just things. When people acquire a belief system, whether it's left or right, they will take great pains to protect it because they are assigning a great deal of value to it, more so than anyone else's belief systems that they have gotten. Now, understanding that, we talk about, that's the endowment effect. Now we're going to talk about something called the availability heuristic. What this is people using very recent information that they have gotten, or very, let's see if I can find the right picture, extreme or vivid or negative information to make decisions, even though that information is incredibly limited. It's the most recent, therefore they will use it and assign it much, much more value than it is probably worthy. Instead of looking at all of the information available about a subject, they will only take what's been put forth to them very recently in making decisions. One of the biggest examples of this was Kate Steinle. The current man in charge of our country now is in charge of our country because of Kate Steinle. He had very recently, prior to this, the unfortunate death of this young woman, put out this opinion about building a wall and how much there was this threat from the south of our border, given that we can show and establish clearly that there are, pardon me, I'm looking for the right picture, things that are so much more dangerous to the health and well-being of Americans every day than this. He puts that out, and then right after, Kate Steinle is killed. And so people using the availability heuristic assigned a great threat to immigration, to illegal immigration, why it's a problem, and it got so much more heavily weighted in their minds than other considerations as to who we should vote for president. I didn't think either the Democrat or the Republican was a good choice, just in case anybody out there is wondering. I was a third-party guy. But you could see the emotionality of it and the inability of people to look at this, while an incredible tragedy and the man shouldn't have been here, true, and it wasn't murder. It was a reckless homicide for sure. But the facts even proved that it was, a ricocheted shot, that the guy wasn't aiming at her. He wasn't even anywhere near her. But that's all they needed to know. And it completely skewed our election cycle. And the pushing of this and the pushing of this idea was this. This was the beginning and the end of the election, at least the primaries, for sure, was this. And it was just a matter of timing. And the folks at Fox, the psychological operators, got this wonderful gift. And they were able to take advantage of those two things, that availability heuristic and the endowment effect, that belief system that people had. And then, of course, the very most recent information being blown up and being made into such a large problem that they used it to make a decision that had so many more ramifications to it, simply because of those two psychological states. This here is the, where they say what the facts say and what confirms your belief. And so you pick out those things that confirm what you believe, and then this is what people make all of their decisions on. This little bitty tiny bit of information right here. So that's what today's training was about. And to understand this in your own life, am I making decisions using all of the information? Or am I focusing on something that's been very recent, extreme, or vivid, that's being overly weighted in one direction? And it happens on the left, it happens on the right, it happens to everybody. This is why every time we see an event with weapons, with there being some kind of a shooting in this country, that the left just takes very, very recent information, recent events, and blows it up into this giant problem. That there's this continual slaughter with guns and all this. And it just has to do with availability heuristic and the endowment effect of their belief system, that their belief about guns is so much more valuable than anybody else's belief about it. And this is where you see the anger, the frustration, and the serotonin levels drop, and the dopamine levels drop, and everything just gets so blown out of proportion, and nobody sits and has a thoughtful, intelligent conversation with all of the facts to try to fix the problem. It's either this group crazy is over here and that group crazy is over there. So we will leave it there. Loss aversion, the endowment effect, and the availability heuristic have been controlling the thoughts and the minds of people in this country for a very long time, and it has caused all sorts of problems. Its lack of fundamental understanding of psychological states. And we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys. The channel is growing exponentially. If you know anyone, of course, that you think would, for $5 a month, would enjoy learning about these types of things in a way that they can apply it in their lives, encourage them to come to the Florida Machian Patreon. We would love to have people. I think the more people attending training like this, the better things will get. So, like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much.